Welcome to RRM Presents in the Bay with Presents, and our guest today, as you can clearly see, welcome Cam. How you doing, man? Cameron?
Doing very well. I could do it with a better chair though.
Better chair? Oh, can we give you the better chair?
It keeps sinking down, I don't know.
Do you want the better chair?
I have a better chair.
Do you want the better chair? Let's swap, come on. Have you got a better chair? Oh, okay, we'll do that, no problem. We'll just wait. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
He's got his own chair.
The Clark stool's not enough. There you go. It's out the way. Oh, look at this.
Oh,
is that better? I kind of feel good now because you're so tall. Like, I feel like I'm on a level here. This is the only time I'm ever going to be taller than you. Ever. You stole the chair?
Yeah, I was shopping in a Tesco, in one of the big ones, and it was for like retro rides or something like that years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I had it like just hooked on my back because we were trying to scoop everything up. We were doing the self-checkout. It was like boom, boom, boom. And I walked out and I just looked on my shoulder. I was like, oh shit.
So it wasn't like a mistake in Mars bar or a
it was a mistake.
It was a chair.
It was a mistake. You will not catch me going back there and offering to pay £35 for a camping
No,
chair.
I'd do exactly the same. Fair
I
play.
think the statute of limitations has run out on it anyway.
To be honest, it's a fantastic chair. I wish I had one.
It's even better that it's free.
Normally, free comes a dick up your ass, you know what I mean? But it, you know, fair play, a free chair, you can't beat it. Exactly, there you go. Right, yeah, we got Cam here in the Bay. He's brought along his fantastic Toyota Mark II, as you can see, absolutely beautiful. And we're going to find out the backstory of what got you into cars, where the beginnings lay, exactly how you started, what gave you a feed of passion, and exactly, eventually, what led you up to have such a machine, as you can see.
What led me up to such a financial mistake?
As we all say, financial mistakes of cars,
ridiculous
exactly. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. New and revamped, fantastic, excellent. So Cam, tell me, what was it that basically fed your passion from a young age? What got you started from as far back as you can remember? What was it that led you into a journey of cars? You were a young man. How old are you?
23.
Exactly, you're only 23, so it's like, that's a seriously young, you know, fair play, massive respect for being able to, people who work hard, and that's something you to remember. Work hard, it pays off, and you can see a prime example here. So feedback, exactly what happened, as young as you can remember what happened.
God, my dad, definitely my dad, having stuff like Saab 900s, the turbo one with the
big plastic spoiler.
Yeah.
The rubber ones,
yeah.
rubber spoiler.
I always used to rub it, and he picked me up from school. I was like,
was it black
the
with three spokes?
one? No, it's silver.
With three
like
spokes.
most.
It's got to about 3 spokes on it.
My wheels thing started way later than that. So I don't remember what wheels it was on, but no, I remember him he used to take me to the park to play with the other kids and stuff like that, and I'd just be like, can we just stay in the car? Can we just keep driving?
It's cool.
Watching old F1, obviously back when they had good engines.
Yeah, exactly.
They sounded good.
V10.
Yeah, waking up on the weekend, coming down and hearing just the screaming from the living room, I was like, oh, yeah.
You know what, exactly. It just doesn't do the same thing with the turbo V8s anymore, does it?
No. It's actually the only car that I didn't get a photo of at Goodwood Festival of Speed the year that they changed the engine.
Okay.
So I was in kind of a canopy area where there was a tree each side, a big gap in the middle, so you could hear the car coming, and I was timing photos coming through. It's the only car I missed because I couldn't hear it coming.
Oh, really?
I didn't know it was coming, but it was like the reveal of the new F1 car and stuff, and it just went, oh.
Well, so it goes to show, doesn't it? Like, obviously, I went to Silverstone as well when they were doing the Renault days back in the V10s, and all the Renaults, the Formula Renaults would go around, and then they had like the demo lap of the F1 car, and
the RS10 or something.
Yeah,
like that. The blue and yellow.
That was it. Yeah, it was, and that noise. That it was one car on track, and the way I always thought about it is, if that's what one sounds like, I imagine 24.
Did you never get to see them?
I've never been to. This is really bad, but I've never been to a Grand Prix.
It's not worth going to now. I'm
a bit late. You see.
I remember being younger. I was at Silverstone with my family. The time that Lewis took Alonso in like the final few laps.
Okay.
I think it ended up with him winning the championship. But the noise. It's not even just the noise. It was the feeling of the ground. when the first few laps with the whole pack were still together.
See, I wish I could do that.
You know when you're at a gig,
yeah,
and you're really near the speakers and your insides are all jiggling about, and it goes on for it's like that, but it comes up slowly. So you feel like everything on your insides. It's ridiculous.
And it lasts, I suppose, for ages.
So many cars, and it's just a blast every single time. And then when they break up, you get like a pack of them together, and
man,
you feel the ground moving.
I would have loved. I'd have given anything to watch that. Obviously, I did the same. I used to watch F1 with my dad as a kid, when they were proper. But no, But yeah, I mean, obviously,
it's a lost experience because you will never have that many V10, V8, F1 cars together at once ever again. So if you didn't get to see it,
it's a bit like
that's your chance gone.
The Michael Jackson, you Kurt Cobain. If you never got to see him live, never again.
If you never went to an F1 race back when they had the proper engines,
exactly. At least, I mean, do they still do the demos at like Goodwood?
They bring out the old because they know people want to see it. They do bring them out every now and again, but it is definitely a different feeling when there's one. You get to hear it and see it, but like when it is a group.
That's what I mean. It's a completely different thing, I can imagine.
It's actually quite strange because it's the one racing series of a different era that we've genuinely lost. Because even at Goodwood Revival and stuff like that, we still have the Group C Le Mans cars, the prototypes and stuff like that. They go out in big groups, and you still get to see them as a big group. Big group F1.
Yeah, it's lost.
It's a weird middle era where we
completely lost. It's gone. Dad, going out to see races, watching on TV, etc. What is it that you felt like when you first decided, right, this is what I want to do and follow as a main hobby, as an interest? So it actually dawned on you, obviously, when you wanted to stay in the sub, and then obviously what led you up to become like, right, this is what a hobby is. I'm obsessed with cars, and you started realising that, and your parents realised.
It's hard to say. It definitely came in slowly. Like it wasn't really like I woke up one day and I was like, I want to ruin my life. It was more just as I went on, it was like, right, I want my first car. I know I want it to be old. I know what I want to do with it. I know that that's what I want to pour my money into. And I was left some money from my great grandfather it was specifically to buy my first car when he passed. It was the only money I've ever been left by a family member that I've lost. And it was only £1,000.
Okay.
So I had to find something old for a first car that I could afford to insure. That it would be my own. So I spent £600 on a Mark II Golf.
There you go, Mark II Golf.
It was pretty horrendous. it had been confiscated from an old woman because she hit a group of school children. And that was the breaking point for the family to say, you're not allowed to drive anymore.
Right, okay, so they took her car off her because she hit some children.
Took her away. and the son's car broke, so he had to drive the Golf to work one day. So that's when I got to see it, because I was at that depot. So one of the windows was left down, it was kind of in the snow, it looked really sad, bonnet was dented, grille had no clips left.
Gee, so basically it's like what you call a project. So it's definitely a project car, but you know what, if you've seen that, and you know what, 9 times out of 10 people would go spoil kids, etc. They'd go, no, I want to go finance.
Oh, it looked like a heap of shit.
But you didn't, you went, I want that car.
Yeah.
And do you know
I
what
put
I mean?
a note on it. I literally just put a note on it and I hoped.
So,
I just hoped.
What happened? I'm taking it, obviously you own the Mark II now, so...
Yeah, so I didn't actually know it was a Mark II Golf. I didn't know Mark II Golfs existed at the time. I was still like, young, still figuring out.
How old was you exactly? Do you remember?
Just after I turned 18. So I was like, middle of 18.
Okay.
So I thought I was buying a Mark I Golf, because it was just a square old VW. Yeah. You don't really see Mark IIs if you're not in the scene, kind of thing. You know the Mark IIIs are the blobby ones, and you know the Mark Is are the old ones. Yeah. So I didn't know there was one in between. But I was like, this looks a bit too big to be a Mark I. So I bought
it. 4-door Mark I?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so
the drivers were...
Because I don't know what it did. Was it the Rabbit? Was that the Mark I?
The Rabbit was the Mark I in America.
Is that what
that's what they called it.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Mark I.
I
remember seeing the Rabbit badge, but neither do I. This is the thing. Like people try and talk to me about VWs, and I have no idea. I just like my one.
Do you know what? As long as that's the main thing. Though, it's like it doesn't matter what it is. If you, and that's the key point of people about yourself that I admire is you like the car because you like the car, not because.
Oh, I don't care about brand.
It's exactly that, because you don't like. Oh well, everyone would think I'm cool if I bought this. this. No, that doesn't. No, if you like that, so do everyone else thinks exactly that. You know, and it's good. So it landed in your hands, and you paid £600 for it. Did you buy it as in to say, right, I'm going to make this into something, I want to modify it, restore it, or track it, etc.?
I didn't really have a plan. I mean, it had to stay basically stocked for the first year because I paid 3,200 with a black box for the first year.
See, that's the
for
thing,
a 1.8 Mark II Golf.
Thing is, but you work, obviously you had a full-time job.
Yeah, I was still an apprentice. So basically, I got paid, I paid my car insurance, I bought food, and that was it. Yeah. And I paid rent. London rent.
So yeah, London rent as well. That was in your own place, or
that was a shared house. I was living horrendously, but I had to have the car. So
like we do.
I had to just slum it out for a few years just to be able to have the car, and then finally it paid off. But
it's just so cool. Now, right, and so basically you had that. You've now got your car. You mentioned that you used to do a bit of karting days racing.
Yeah, I had a fairly short racing career. It was a few years.
Okay.
Started off in privateer, arrive and drive karting. Okay. Got good enough at that and started winning enough to go privateer. So we bought our own kart. It was a Tony kart in 2012 or something like that. We joined Minimax. So that's like Rotax. So it tops out about 55, 56. It was a clay pigeon raceway.
Yeah. All like outdoor karting stuff.
Yeah. So you bring your own cart and it's properly registered and you have to have a license and all that stuff. So that was fantastic, but it was just so expensive. We were turning up with a trailer that we made together. It was a normal trailer, but the top was a big panel of wood that we built and screwed blocks onto for the wheels and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
Because we couldn't afford a specific.
Yeah, like Brian James.
Trailer. Yeah, exactly. Couldn't do it. So we literally had a panel that we could both together lift and slot onto this trailer that had all our tools in it and put the cart on top and just ratchet strap it. And then we'd turn up to the track and there'd be kids in the same class as us. You know, we were 13, 14 at the time. People were turning up with RVs where you could press a button and it would get wider and stand.
Yes, they were the funded ones.
They'd open the back and see a line of engines and we'd look at our one engine like from 2 years ago, like holding on for dear life, and our scrapbook of jet sizes for altitudes and temperatures, and we're just like, what are we meant to do here?
But you know what, you did it, and this is what, it's another thing about finding out why people, obviously you had that, but you still managed to crack on. I mean, there's me like moaning about racing fees for time attack now, you know, but
it is silly now.
It just goes to show though, if you was determined, and obviously your dad or your family, they backed you and they followed you and pushed you in that, it just goes to show that like if you really desperately want it, I mean it is different now. I mean I can't afford the fees to enter time attack, I just can't do it. Exactly, do you know what I mean?
There's a reason the grids for most racing series are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's not because of lack of interest, it's because the door is just such a paywall. You just cannot get into it if your dad or family member isn't on some board or isn't already someone or a big name. You just can't get in.
Well, this is it. There's no thing about, well, as you know, you're a motorsports fan, the Lewis Hamilton subject.
Yeah, I would say he was probably one of the last to come from a normal family.
Yeah, and now even that's being scrutinised by some people, but like, we'll never know. But it's like, it's so hard now, but at least you got to say that you did manage to compete at that level.
Got a taste of it.
And you got a taste about that field, so that would lead you up to probably now, as we go back onto the Mark II Golf, why you're deciding to go in that direction. So, the golf you had, I've seen you, I followed you for a while, you know. It's
well, have.
I still got the golf.
It's been away for quite a while, yeah.
But it's having some subtle changes.
Almost done.
Exactly, I know it's been a while. How long has it been now since you've been having this whole...
It was probably last driven like a year and a half ago.
Exactly, it doesn't feel that long since I've seen you drive.
It does.
Back in the days, I bet for you it does, but for the days that I used to see you and I used to like scrolling through an Instagram feed and you'd come on like, I'm cold, like, and it's going ding, 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 and I'm like, oh my word, I'm like, what is that thing? So what made you strip it? Because you were stripped out before you took it off the road, wasn't it? So.
Oh yeah, I had it pretty much how it is now. I only got to drive it for like a month in the state that it was, like all painted, with the arches on, with the wheels on, everything kind of sorted. But yeah, I knew I wanted to get back on track in some way, not professionally. It left a bad taste in my mouth. It's not where I want to be. So just for fun. But also as a daily, I have no problem with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, bucket seats went in, cage went in, proper 5-point harness setup went in. The windows are plastic now, so those are just the little
sliders,
the little slidey holes.
Love sliders.
Yeah.
Love sliders.
Well, I haven't driven it like that yet because a lot has been done to it
Yeah.
while it's been going through the engine change. So I have no idea how it is now.
But just point on the engine change. I mean, it's very. I've heard of many conversions, lots of conversions, being obviously didn't. What did you do? What made you decide to go for that engine specifically? I've got an idea of, I would assume, but I want to hear it straight from your mouth.
What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking, like, obviously, I mean, I'd like to think, obviously, you know, with this absolutely stunning thing here, like you're a JDM man, you're into your old school Japanese cars. SR20s, S chassis. Obviously, it's a German car, and it's your spin on putting something a bit Japanese back into your life, even though you had those. Would I be wrong?
You almost had it earlier, where brands and countries and stuff like that don't actually matter to me at all. It was a 4-cylinder with a lot of aftermarket, with a lot of potential from a front-wheel drive car for £200. It was a fully built engine, ready to go with stainless manifold, titanium exhaust. Everything was all there with the gearbox and all the drive shafts. £200 with the loom.
See now, so you wouldn't find that now. I mean, even now.
No, even the front wheel drive ones are starting to get expensive. Yeah. But I didn't even have the money for that. I had to borrow money off my friend Ben. Thank you, Benny.
You got it.
I was still on the premise. I was still paying that stupid rent and insurance. I knew I had to have this engine. Down the line, I would use it.
Yeah.
So I had to borrow money off a friend to buy it.
Mate, and that's always. What you've touched on now, I've said this to many people that know me, if you want something and it's there for the ready, if you've got the knowledge behind you that you know that's one, it's going to be worth it.
I can make it work.
Yeah. Two, you can make it work, even if it's not now, I can do it eventually. And my uncle said the same thing about the Subarus. I've been wanting one of them since I was 8 years old. My uncle Gary, he always said, if you want one, buy one now, while they're cheap.
That's what I say people with classic.
Any classic.
Oh, I really want a classic Japanese car.
Yeah.
You have to do it as early as possible.
Yeah, and just don't think about it. Just do however you have to do it, borrow it, do arrange something.
They
go
are
out
only going to get more expensive.
Exactly, then, you know, exactly.
Yeah.
So just to recap, SR20 NA.
On ITBs.
On ITBs.
So it's a set of GTIR ITBs that have been NA adapted, so all the turbo feeds have been cut off, and then ported for a low port SR.
Excellent. Excellent. That sort of thing in a Mark II Golf. So this is what I mean. It just goes to show when people are moaning about they can't build anything, right? This man has just put the stop to anyone who says that, because it's just daft. If you want to do something and you've got a vision, draw it, write it down, make it happen.
Well, I did the preliminary work for it, obviously, like finding out what would work. I found one Mark II with an SR20 in it. It was in Greece, built by family brothers.
Okay.
And that's been going for years. So I knew it fit. I knew it was possible. I messaged them, I talked to them, so it's the only one in the world that I can find with the same engine. But obviously I wanted ITBs on mine and stuff like that. So it's the only one in the world on ITBs and stuff like that. You know, splitting hairs, but you can't, the point is you can't go on a forum and go, fitting SR to Mark II Golf, what do I need? Nobody's done it, so you don't actually know. So I did all the preliminary work, finding the parts, finding out what would be needed, even down to the fuel tank, because the car was carved before, so I needed to get a VR6 Mark III tank that would fit up to it with the EFI stuff in it.
Jeez.
But then I handed it all off to people that knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I live in London. I can't be doing
you haven't got
engines
this, you know,
from a car park.
Exactly, you know what I mean. And
I want it to be done properly. I want to be able to beat on it endlessly and know that it's been built to the absolute top spec.
And that's why it's took so long. It doesn't matter.
That's why it's taken.
Exactly. And the Golf will be back soon. So obviously,
very soon.
I'd love to get it down here and done it. It'd be brilliant if you could. But I know fully how it is when you're building a car like that. I mean, everyone's assumption will be, oh, you're going to boost it, put a turbo on it.
Yeah, a lot of people have said
but
that.
I love the fact that you haven't. You've gone NA.
Oh, VR6. Ooh, bam, the 1.8T. It's like,
It's
yeah,
been
but
done.
the reason you say that is because it's been done. Everyone knows it works. Everyone knows it's out. If you want to see a 1.8T Golf or something like that, you can just go to a VW show, and most of them are.
Exactly.
But my Golf isn't for any shows or anything like that.
Remember, now just please. Remember what you just said there. That is not for anyone else. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? what you've just said is perfect. The whole point of me doing and the way I go, you've not done it for anyone else. You've not done it to showboat. You've not done it to go and
most people will never see it in person.
Exactly.
Like people message me on Instagram like, I can't wait to see the golf ball. Are you taking it here? No. This one is for show. This one looks nice. The golf is just something fun for me. Like it will never go unless I've got track time somewhere or something. I'll figure out how to get both. But
I know how you feel. Like, I nearly got shot. Purists nearly absolutely shot me from my Tommy Cara.
Yeah.
But why are you chopping that up and putting a wide body on that? Like, you know, I don't care. I want to do it because 22Bs is 250 grand.
Yeah.
So it's never going to happen with some lottery, and I couldn't go out and then track a 22B with that money.
That's the problem with all these expensive hero cars.
Exactly.
It's like, oh yeah, I really want one, but what would you actually do with it?
And I thought, apart from lock it up and polish it, which is not for what I built that car to go out and send it. Do you know what I mean? And all the panels are fiberglass carbon, so if I do break them, ABW stock them. Again, what you're saying about you can't go on forums. Adam Ulster Car Care, well, you know, thank you very much. He built the back end to OEM spec with the door shuts. Yeah. We had to figure it out ourselves how we're going to mount a Tommy car rear bumper when there was only 400 of them mounted to a wide body set.
I think a lot of the kickback you get when you're working on a car like that is because it's a demo car or something like that, a special car. But it's the track record of people in the UK with demo cars. I mean, it's happening at the moment in a few different places with a few different cars, but they are generally ruined. They are generally not treated correctly. They are chopped up or messed around with, and it removes the history it has. What I think you've done with that is fantastic because you've developed on it in keeping with the way they would have done it at the time.
Yeah, but that was
all the carbon fibre parts and all that. It's all about speed, the genuine watts of one of a kind of the PCD.
Yeah,
it's all accurate to what they would approve of.
Exactly.
It's not like you chop the roof off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, turn it into a pickup truck or something like that. No, you've improved on the design.
Exactly.
Within the right.
You were a man after 90s JDM old school. The vision I had was if Smokey built that car, how would he do it?
Yeah.
And that's when I sat back and I thought, what would Smokey have done? He'd have put an SR. He'd have put an RB26 or 2JZ.
Like
Secret has it that I do actually have an aquaticization of a 2JZ, but that's for a different story anyway. But it might be there, might not be.
If you manage to do a 2J and keep the all-wheel drive,
this is what I mean as a thing. It's
incredibly impressed.
Them cars were designed to be four-wheel drive. They're not. I mean, obviously, Jack Performance Powers and Crawley have got a rear-wheel drive on with an RB26 in it.
Well, the problem is when you add an engine that isn't
exactly
like that,
flat,
it becomes very tall.
Exactly, and you have to. It's the way the drive shafts don't sit properly. It's long. I had a long.
I do not envy you on this project.
No, well, that's what I think. To be honest, the Boxer, but that's.
One car that's all at the front. One car that's all at the back. That's
honestly,
for me.
mate, honestly, it's brilliant, and that's what I mean with the Golf. It will be back soon, it really will. I can't wait to see it myself. And you know what? Actually, I would enjoy track time with you. Actually, I'm going now.
Yeah,
we'll use the cars to build them.
You'll destroy me.
Because no turbo lag, straight out that corner, straight into the power and RTBs.
I think it's going to be around like low 800 kilograms.
See,
at this point.
Yeah,
it's got nothing in it. I've got fiberglass front wings to go on it as well.
See, there you go. And then you're still running the wide arch kit as well.
Yeah, but that's all fiberglass as well. So
excellent.
Okay. Fiberglass.
Exactly. So let's that brings us short.
Let's find out.
Exactly my points.
Mallory Park. I was going into the bottom corner with the original engine at 102, and I was holding my foot all the way around.
See, now that you could not do.
But I was going into the corner at 100.
You couldn't do that. Not enough. So I meant to.
Gearbox is still Primera, so I planned on using an 020 gearbox from a VW to make it easier for the linkages and stuff. But we found out that the flywheel is actually too big on the SR to fit inside the bell housing of the 020. So we had to go Primera box, and then just custom shafts and a custom Primera adjusted linkage for shifting.
I see, so it's completely custom one-off car, and that's what interests me. I like to look at exactly like the idea you had behind it. Obviously, it relates back. You've got back into track. You wanted to have that. You've had the taste. You've been professional. You went out and you was like, right, I just want to go back into track, but for yourself and
just have fun.
Exactly.
It's so much fun.
Wheels, and obviously everybody who knows who you are knows that you're Mr. Wheels. I call you Mr. Chunk. Chunk and Wheels.
I feel like I should trademark that.
So you should actually trademark the word chunk. I completely agree. But like, with wheels, obviously with the Golf, you want a JDM spec wheel on that Golf thing?
Yeah, the SSR Mark II.
Exactly.
So what? 13-inch SSR Mark II.
13, exactly. So if Was that just a thing that come about while you were building the Golf, or was it just something that you always, as a kid, and you was looking at go-karts, I've got little wheels or race cars?
Small wheels, man.
Like small wheels.
I don't know how to explain it. It's a race car thing. It is a race car.
Yeah, exactly.
The majority of race cars, they've got very small, they'll run like classic minis, obviously 10s, some 12s, some 13s. F1 cars, I think they were like 14 on the back, 13 on the front for years.
Yeah, this is, oh, you know.
Yeah, I mean that is the correct size for a wheel. Okay. And then you just have gigantic rubber around it, and it can give you race car look. It can give you classic car like stretched donut shape. Like there's so much you can do with a small wheel with a big tyre.
Yeah.
Big wheel, small tyre. It doesn't.
And as you know, with the racing background, more rubber on the road, more
exactly. And then we also get tyre deflection and the sidewall movement and stuff. It's all
exactly. So there you go. So where did it just developed? Obviously, small wheels. You love that. Obviously, you get everyone now that asks you. They come to you when they want their wheel spec. How do you feel about that now that you know? I mean, because you know.
I think it's really stupid to come for wheel specs, considering I've guessed mine and got it wrong. So I've never once measured any wheel spec.
It's mad.
For the Golf, I built it up to 8.5 on the front, 9.5 on the back. It's 3.5 inch lip on the back, 2.5 on the front.
So you run staggered on the Golf, staggered?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Because obviously the fiberglass arches aren't exactly the same front and back, and the tracking's all different. Square tyres, so it's 235. 55s all the way around.
The chunk.
AR1s.
Yeah, they have to be square for chunk.
If you just get the feeling of slapping a tyre, you know when they're unmounted, and they just look meaty.
Big.
You just want
they look massive.
No slap when you get that pong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's chunk.
So there you go. That is chunk. I'm telling you. Anybody, you don't need to ask him now. Don't blow his inbox up. That's what you need.
It just looks like squishy and soft with big fucking tyres. That's what you want.
Perfect, absolutely brilliant. Well, that's it. I mean, obviously, the Mazda, I did exactly. I mean, we did a couple of spec work and looking around, but rocket bunny cars are hard to build anyway, because you really do have to cut and tub the front arches in. So, obviously, massive, you've seen huge stretch on there, and they're 255s on their own, and they're still stretched over a 10.5 J wheel.
Well, these are 10.5. I'm pretty sure these are 10.5. I'm not sure.
They're really nice wheels.
I know it's 4.5 inch lip on the back, and then.
They're staggered on this as well.
2.5 on the front. Oh yeah, massively. But these are actually spaced by 10 mil because I got it wrong. Oh, so I'm going to have to relip these with another like 1.5 2 inches.
Oh really?
Yeah, I can get away with way more on the front. But those were like absolutely perfect. I don't think I could get that.
Do you know what? I'm just looking at that and I'm just looking, I'm thinking, like honestly the workload, and we'll touch on this obviously a bit later, but honestly, with wheels, I always say, obviously being detailed and stuff, wheels and glass, if you've got clean glass and you've got clean wheels, if you've got nice wheels, that makes a car. You could have it covered in filth or rock, but it will still look good if it's got wheels and glass, do you know what I mean?
Well, everyone always puts so much of a focus on wheels. I mean, obviously there's specific awards just for wheels at shows and stuff like that.
Which you've won, obviously, I'll remember.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah, there you go.
But I just thought that, why don't people genuinely put more of their own personality into their wheels? Like, yes, anyone can buy the wheels that people are like winning awards or flexing or showing off, but there's very little personalization when it comes to wheels. You've got colour and you've got size. Size is pretty much dictated by the car, and people go as wide as you can, that's it. And colour is just usually, black, grey, silver, or paint match to the car.
Or powder coated.
Yeah, that's it. So for something that gets so much focus in the car scene, and people are always like, oh, what wheels have got, and stuff like that, there's very little actual personality in them.
Exactly.
There's a lot of wheels that you see that are exactly the same on different cars. It's like, they're nice wheels, but I've seen them.
Yeah, before. I get that. So how do you feel when people, if I go to Driftworks for instance now, and I was to buy a set of works for £3,000 for just a dish, do you justify them kind of prices for them sort of wheels? Or do you think it's just because of...
I try and avoid larger wheels because, one, it's not my thing. And when it's not my thing, I don't know about it. So I don't feel like I actually know enough about... I can't imagine the material difference, the amount of material used could really justify that jump in price. Because if you do get like a weak spec 15 or something like that, it's going to be way cheaper than a strong spec 18. The amount of material isn't that different. It's all coming off the same machine. I don't see why there's such a jump in price. But if we're talking real versus fake prices, yes, I see the difference, and yes, I believe it's justified. But some of the wheels now, like, God, what can we say? I mean, T37s are going crazy.
Yeah.
Blitzo 3s are a brilliant example.
Yeah. Adam Alsey popularised them as well.
Yeah, he ruined it.
Yeah.
And as far as 90s wheel goes, it's a shame because they're actually quite nice.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest, but it's just absurd. You see people spending 10k on a set of wheels and stuff like that. Oh, it's strong specs. It's like,
I completely get it when you say
it couldn't be me.
I completely get it when you start. You get what you pay for. Like if you buy it's like a steering wheel. Like if you buy a genuine OMP, a genuine Nardi, they won't bend like a eBay £40 special. You can twist them. It's the same with wheels. I mean,
it's not even as far as crashing either. People say like, oh, you don't notice till you crash. It's like, no, if you watch someone's in-car video of them using a bomb instead of an omp, you can see when they're steering, it's flexing, moving in multiple axes, and you just
it's just dangerous. And like, I mean, I'll hold my hands up. As you know, I'm guilty. We run JR on a Thea's bunny, but the only reason, I know she's 11. She's crashed it 3 times already. But
wheels with safety. Wheels, I don't think is about safety as much. Yes, you see the pictures of like, oh, they crack, they burst, but that's under extreme stress usually. It's not like they hit a pothole that others would handle and they just exploded. I don't think there's a real cause for safety about wheels. Steering wheels, yes. Wheels, not so much. It's not pure Chinese yet. They're still good. When it comes to wheels, I think the real deal versus fake is more about being about it, kind of thing. If you're gonna be on them and you know you're gonna destroy them, you may as well buy fakes. Like, I'm never gonna shit on someone for buying fakes because they know they're gonna get abused.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be me. Like, the Golf gets so much abuse. I know the wheels get covered in, EBC, brake pad, dust and stuff.
Worst pads for dust.
It destroys them. They're polished lips as well, and it just eats them.
Yeah, Nostalgia did that. Ridiculous.
But I know I don't ever want to run reps, so reels is the only other option.
No, it's about personal choice as well. I mean,
it is personal choice.
And that's what I mean. Most people to understand. I've seen posts online or posts on Instagram, and it's like, oh, you know what? No, it's just your personal choice. That's not me saying I don't like that. That should be blue.
At the end of the day, everyone's car is their own
individual. Exactly.
But at the same time, it is. You have to be aware that there are people out there who will see it as supporting almost. Well, it's not illegal, but it's pretty cheeky. Seeing someone else's homework and copying it, but worse.
Yeah, but to be fair, you make a good point.
It's cheaping out. It's cheaping out. A lot of the cars you see, like R34 GTRs, stuff like that, like real GTRs, examples. Hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of car a lot of the time, especially if they're modified.
Yeah.
And then you see people chuck like 600 quid JRs on them. And it's like, what are you doing, Chief?
Exactly. You know what? Where you put that, that's what I mean. Exactly.
Mr. Big Money flexing his car and then he turns up with the JR caps. It's like...
But this is it, and this is one thing I don't hide because, and while we're on the subject of JR, I don't hide. I completely know that bunny was built as cheap as possible because she's going to ruin it, and I'm not going to spend. But my Subaru,
which is why it's fair enough.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
But
that's when I talk about the GTR. That's what I mean about wheels less being about safety or anything like that, and more about being about it. Because anyone can buy those cars. But knowing how to put the right things on them and stuff like that is something you need to know. That's something you need to learn. So that's someone that has no issues with money. They had real work equipped money or stuff like that. They just didn't want to see the difference.
Exactly.
They saw 2 wheels that look the same and a bigger price tag on one. They went, well, why would I do that? They don't know. And that's when it comes into being about it.
Exactly, and that's the whole reason I put real botanicals on my Subaru, because
it's very cool.
They needed to be the real deal, because again, if you've seen that, everything, the carbon, it's all C-bond, and exactly what you said, you spent $4 grand on a front end alone in panels, and why have you put 300 wheels on it?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
But would that car feel the same to you?
No.
If it had fake wheels on it?
No, then I've driven that car at speed and track, as you know very well. And the way that thing handles with the magnesium, with obviously the materials made,
lightweight,
and the 55-inch Dunlop profile tyre, and tyres for me is one thing I would never
cheap out on either.
Exactly, and if you notice, they're Toyo Proxy TR1s on the bunny, so they might be wrecked, but they're still good tyres. That's the only thing.
But that's because you're about it.
Exactly, it's the only thing that's attached.
If you weren't about it, you would have these giant, heavy,
runways,
unsprung weight anchors. Because have you ever actually held a real versus a fake in similar specs next to each other?
As in wheels or tires?
Yeah, wheels.
I've never actually.
The weight difference is almost double at times. It is ridiculous.
To be
like
fair,
even with these, obviously the split rims, they're mostly aluminium on the outside, but the reps aren't actually split. They're solid, but with like fake bolts in them, which means they're all one material. The weight difference is insane. If you're making a performance car
with the JRs and the bunny, they are replica Watanas. That's what they are. Yeah. So I could do that. Was it you? Someone picked up my wheel. I think it might have been Steve Wallace actually. He picked it up with the tyre attached and was pressing it above his head. Like, why is this so long? I was like, well, the spokes are hollow, so you can put your finger in the back of the spoke.
It happens to me constantly. Whenever I have to take these off or work, even the winter set of Mark IIs I've got, I pick them up and I'm like, ooh. Okay. I kind of heft it up. I'm ready to like lift something.
Get the back engaged, like
it's just nothing there, and that's because they're real.
No, that's it. So you got the Golf, and that's now. Did you send the Golf away before you bought the Toyota, or was this something?
No. So the Golf sat next to this while the Golf was broken and undrivable, and this was unregistered and undrivable. So I had no car for
the crossover point. So what? Literally, you was. Obviously, this is, I mean, like I said, I'm going to do it again. Respect and God for you for being such a young age and driving something like this. I mean, that's not me blowing your own trumpet or whatever. It's the fact that any lad at 23 years old.
It looks stolen, right? Yeah, I get it.
It's like, I wouldn't, I mean, for my first car, when I was 17 to 18, 19, was a Metro, or 1.S, whatever it was. And then I Rover Tomcat. A Rover Tomcat, a Rover Cougar. The one with the T-top gas.
Yeah.
Again, it was cool in the day, but it wasn't as cool as some people flexing the Evos and the Subarus when you could get them for 600 quid.
The council estate king.
Exactly my point. You know,
get your money.
Exactly. I know exactly what it. But so when you was going through, obviously you worked your ass off, you did everything. You was right. This is the time. You obviously thought to yourself, I want to import a car now. I've done that myself with the style. I had the EP82.
Yeah.
How did you come about going, right, I'm going to import a car, this is what I want, so tell me, what made you think about that?
I didn't actually plan on importing a car before I found out about this. So my friend Benny, again, the one that lent me the money for the engine, I owe him the world, to be honest, at this point. He knew I liked these. I've liked these for years, since I saw the team final MX-41. Decked out on 13s, it's way more extreme than this.
Okay.
Way more work put into it.
Because you're into the Bonzuka sort of thing as well, aren't you?
Kaido races and stuff like that, yeah. I mean, this isn't one, but I love that style, like just the expressions and how unique they are, I love it. But yeah, no, this isn't built like one, but I wanted one of these.
Okay.
Ben obviously trawls the auctions constantly for his work and his side business and stuff. And he came across one, and he was like, it's that car you like. And I was like, oh, it is. Ooh. It is.
Okay.
It's exactly the kind of car I want. In fact, it's perfect, and it was too perfect to not buy. So
no, it's so clean.
Yeah.
Obviously, and as you know, anybody who's looking for a Japanese car, I mean, this isn't against anything that's in the UK because there are a hell of Russian cars. But if you want one especially as a base, like my style, I wanted one as a base. I was like, I'm only going to go from Japan.
Yeah.
Adam's JDM, obviously, thank you very much. He did the shipping stuff from Japan, and when I got that car, it was as clean as the myths say.
Yeah.
There wasn't a mark on it, and you can tell.
It was a bit of a gamble though, because unlike, I didn't go for an importer. I got the car bought by an exporter and then sent to me. I only dealt with people in Japan.
Oh really?
I never dealt with anyone in the UK. It literally got dropped off the boat on the docks, and that's it. I had to do all the UK side paperwork myself. I had to do all that.
Even that is.
I heard too many horror stories of people getting like ripped off and stuff like that, and the Japan side don't tend to do that yet.
Yeah. Well.
So I found someone who, again, Ben used for his car years ago. The exact same guy, fantastic Moa Kia, and I sent him the car. I said, "This is my bidding price. This is the max." It was Japanese eBay.
Yeah.
It wasn't an auction house. There were like 7 really shit Nokia 3310 photographs of this car.
Like a proper pixelated image.
No underside photos, no auction grading because it was just eBay.
Wow.
No proof that it ran. All the information was wrong. So it said like non-smoker's car, and then in the car you could see that they had like cigarette butts and stuff.
Cigar wrappers and
yeah, like it said it had no aircon, but you could see there was an aircon unit. So I couldn't trust anything that was written about it. I didn't even know if it ran at all. So I won the auction. I think I was drunk on the toilet at my mate's house while I was building the Golf when I won it.
And you did you know straight away, or did it just come as a notification on your phone?
He joked with me. He said, "I'm so sorry. I've got bad news."
You now have to spend
I lost it. And he was like, "No, now we need to do all the paperwork." I was like, "Well." But so I won that, and then I only found out that it existed actually when it got picked up by the truck. So it had to get trucked from the top of Japan.
Okay.
And then I only found out that it ran once Moa Clear sent me a video of him moving it around his site, and I only found out what condition it was in when it landed here. So it was a real like staggered finding out kind of thing.
And the thing is, it's just another one. It's like a mad admiration. You chased your dream. You've always liked them. You wanted one since forever.
It was only worth getting a top spec one as well.
Exactly. If you're going to go for the ultimate, whatever you want, is go for the best. Do you know what I mean? And don't skimp out. And obviously you didn't. So it's amazing how you did it without an importer. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, the help that Adam did for me with the Starlet, like he did everything. Like he was really good. He's based in Coventry. But he did the paperwork, he did everything. Literally, I picked the car up with a key, with a trailer, and all he said is, "There's everything you need to do. Send that to the DVR."
Oh yeah, I didn't have any of that.
Exactly like
I printed out 15 versions of the V55/C because I did practice versions. Because obviously, if you mess up even one box, they'll send it all back. So I did practice versions to exactly.
And it was frustrating.
You should have printed out more test ones.
Yes, I should have. It's 6 months.
Yeah. So it's a total random chance of how long it takes to do. But mine came back really quickly, thankfully, because I had no car at the time. So I was like, if this doesn't come back first time and work, I'm screwed. But yeah, no, the check went through. They refunded me for 11 pence because I overspent on my first year's tax. Yeah, and then I had to apply. It's tax exempt, but it's so dumb that you have to pay for the tax, then apply for it to be exempt, then they send you the money back.
It's like
even though you could just do it at once.
But they registered my Toyota. So again, this is the third time of me doing it. The logbook came back as a Kia.
Yeah.
After the third time, and I was like, it says on the 14 pages that it's a Toyota. How can you put it as a Kia?
All correct.
Exactly.
And the DVLA paperwork, and that is very rare.
Exactly.
It has the model, the colour, everything. It all came back right. So I was like, nice.
Mate, it's honestly so.
MOT exempt, fully legal. No tax.
Exactly, and with that MOT exempt as well, obviously that, I suppose, you trust in yourself that makes sure that it is always
I mean, this doesn't even go on. How do you get this into an MOT station? You can't. When you try and drop it onto a brake testing roller or anything like that, it's just going to destroy half the car.
Yeah.
So thankfully, this doesn't qualify as modified enough to lose its exemption.
Got it.
If I put like a 2J in it or something like that, then it would. But thankfully, it's original enough for it to count as
an
original car,
yeah. So when you obviously got the plates back, I know how I felt when I did it with Toyota. Getting into this now, obviously, you just expressed that you've always wanted one. What did it feel like knowing that you're 23 years old, you bought your dream car?
Well, I was 20.
I was going to say,
just turned 22.
Just turned 22. Now, I didn't know my dream car. I prepped it till I was 28. So again, massive respect to you. You got in the keys, the plates were fitted. Where did you go? Where was the first place you took it?
I think I took it to work.
Just a work commute?
It wasn't a work day, I just took it to work to show the people at work.
There you go.
They've all got their nice cars and stuff like that, and I just wanted to, they'd always seen the Golf in like its various stages of haggardness. So I was like, look, I am capable of owning something nice.
A nice car.
And yeah, and it's like, it's that middle distance where it's like enough of the test run, plus if I get there and it's broken, all the tools are there and stuff like that, so I knew I could fix it. So yeah, it was just like a safe journey, because still at that point I didn't know what worked, what didn't. I hadn't driven it yet.
Yeah.
I knew it ran. It was full of water when it came over. It didn't have any coolant in it, it was just water, so I had to dump that quick. But it was definitely a learning curve, preparing this to be roadworthy, because obviously it's older than anything I've ever owned before. There's also no information on them anywhere, because they were never sold here. There's no information. So I just had to learn about how, like copper core radiators, you have to use a specific coolant for it, because otherwise you'll get metallic, dissimilar metal corrosion as it carries through to the aluminium block, and all that ridiculous stuff. So it's a special coolant I had to use and all that. So yeah, it was just a nightmare, and finding parts.
I was going to say parts. I mean, my staging was bad enough, and you'd have thought being sort of basically the Skyline wagon, like the average Joe blogs that you know, Lamoco or whatever you want, brake pads and all. What is it? Just staging.
Brake pads is a funny thing to bring up because the UK, Europe, Australian ones, all that stuff like that, they all had drums. They had drums and a solid rear axle. The Japanese top spec Grande, like this one, MX-41, had discs on the back and an IRS. So it's a full half shaft with a diff and discs.
Rear wheel drive.
Yeah. So the problem is when every single country has drums and only Japan and only the top spec one has discs, pads for that car don't exist. No other country that has pad companies would bother making them because Japan is doing it. Japan, they don't really leave Japan. So I'm currently in need of finding pads for this. I've bought 6 different sets of pads because for different cars of the time by Toyota that did have rear discs everywhere, hoping that they'll fit. Because no, they're still on their way because they're coming from different countries, like some in Germany, stuff like that. So the fronts, I believe, are the same as the UK version because obviously disc. The backs, I have absolutely no idea, and I just hope that they will work.
Honestly, this is what I mean when you come to cars, and obviously you being that into it, it all results back to what you were saying about wheels. Because
you have to be about it.
You have to be about it, and then you have to be prepared to have. You've got no choice to learn. Otherwise, you can't run it.
Yeah, no, I've had to speak to so many Japanese owners of these cars just to find anything information about them.
Well, what engine does it run? A lot of people out there won't know what.
So this is an M-EU. So the M series of engines, you get the 4M, the 7M, those are the most popular. The 7M GTE in the Mark III Supras. You'll see those about a lot. This is a 1M, so it's the first M engine. EU means it's the electronic ignition version, so it's not got a carb, it's actually injected.
Fuel injection?
Yeah, digital injection, 1980.
So 1980?
I believe it was Toyota's first try at injection engines. So
it works.
It's got an ECU. It's got a little tiny ECU under the. I have never seen it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
If I ever see that ECU, it means something's really gone wrong.
Yeah.
But it also means that this was used for 2 years in this car alone.
Yeah.
After that, they changed everything because they realised they could do it a lot better.
Yeah.
So this engine was only available in this car in Japan for 2 years. The Wikipedia paragraph in the M family engine wiki, it literally just mentions that it exists and then carries on.
So it doesn't even give
you don't get literage, you don't get any stats on it. It's literally a paragraph of a few lines that say
that was commitment.
This existed in Japan for a short time. Moving on.
So there's literally, as you said, there is nothing. I mean, but did it come with a handbook?
Yes.
Was it all in Japanese?
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose you have to
I actually managed to find the handbook. It didn't come with the car handbook. It came with the engine one. Just the engine book. It says M-EU and it's all in Japanese. So it might be in there.
There we go. Handbook of Japanese, man.
Maybe. It has all the paper on it. But
see, just goes to show that you can buy a car from Japan and actually have everything it needs to have. Logbooks, everything, you know. There you go, look at that.
There you go. So this contains all of the information on my engine, all the information that I have. It is absolutely ancient, and it is
all in Japanese, as you can see.
Entirely in Japanese. So
I can't.
If anything goes wrong, I just have to sit there.
Look at it.
I'm learning Japanese very slowly, but I'm just sat there with Google Translate. Like, okay, great. What is that?
That's just not. Isn't Japanese the hardest language? I actually, at first glance guess, I would say that is.
Exactly.
Wow, that could potentially be what.
And by this time, it's too late. Your car has exploded. So, like,
I'm not even going to pretend.
It makes everything so much slower and so much more difficult. But owning something like this, not only do you have to be about it, you have to be aware that you are effectively a museum curator at this point.
Exactly.
You have to do the research. You have to do the stuff that no one else has done. You have to search the internet for hours and hours for weird little parts and stuff like that. You have to become a specialist in your own car because you have to keep it on the road.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, and obviously anybody out there that's interested in it, you know, I get a lot of people ask me, like, I want to import my own Japanese car, etc.
Don't.
The only reason I've told them not to is because of 6 months of it. But it was sat in here and I couldn't use it just because they didn't register it. But
if you can get, unless you really, I mean, obviously this I had to get from Japan. This doesn't exist anywhere else.
Exactly.
If I could have gotten, say, like a GC8 or something like that.
Yeah.
If you can get a GC8 in the UK, get it. There's no reason to get a GC8 from Japan because there aren't any differences.
That were sold and
minimal stuff. Like this is basically a completely different car to the UK version, so it was worth doing. It's such a nightmare of paperwork and time, and obviously the parts issues. If there are any differences, it becomes a nightmare. It's not worth it most of the time, unless there's a really significant reason you have. Not Instagram clout, not I bought a car from Japan because it's the cool thing to do.
Remember, that's exactly.
Don't do it. You have to really want that car to go through all that paperwork and the waiting time and the misery. Staying up till 3 a.m. to talk to your exporter for like a few minutes before you go to sleep.
Exactly that. And you know what? It's like the only reason. I mean, it's funny how you should say that about the GC8s because the only differences are. I mean, I know that if you want an STI, then you get 270.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing is you get better spec engines from Japan, but you get worse brakes.
Yeah.
Genuinely, you don't get 4-pop overheat. And no, the only difference is you get a rear wide panel import and you don't in the UK.
See, that's not something.
Exactly, do you know what I mean? There's little sort of difference. Cubby holes, you get 2 cubby holes.
Unless you really like the weird, funny stuff, like the fact that it speaks Japanese when you.
You've got the toll car reader in there.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But I see people with UK cars adding toll car readers in. Why are you doing that? It's not Japanese. You're not fooling anyone. It's not something that's even like that cool because all it does when you're starting it up is ask for the card.
Yeah.
It's not saying some cool phrase. It's literally saying insert your card. It's not.
Not mine that and mine's in that cupboard. That's okay.
Exactly. But it's like like the speed chime. The speed chime. Every time I go over 53 miles an hour, it starts dinging off for hours.
If Darryl gets to that, and he's got a 1986 townhouse, and he did it on his townhouse.
Constant. Mm-hmm. The radio's on in Japanese. Obviously, all the stickers all over the car, like the chassis code, that's all in Japanese. Unless you really care about that stuff that much, I wouldn't bother. It's funny. It's fun to have, but I wouldn't bother if it wasn't the rest of it as well.
Yeah, it's just for you. It's the nostalgia. It's your dream car. It's like someone who wanted, I don't know, a Mark II Fiesta, which retro Fords are cool. Fair play, you chase that, and I understand that because obviously me being into the JDM thing, I completely get it from your level, which is
the obsession for what.
Exactly, like why I
would
want
never
to
sell it.
Exactly.
It would never leave my hands.
Exactly. So. When you've now obviously your motor, obviously if you think about it, how rare this is, you don't know anything about it. How did you come across of jumping into being brave enough to feel this is a car that there's not much information on? How are you going to go to modify it? Because if you need to change things and there's no information.
Thankfully, most of it was already done.
Oh really?
This is part of why it was so perfect because most of the stuff that I would do to it was already done. It was already lowered. Yeah. Obviously not on these wheels and stuff like that, but it already had the stainless steel exhaust system. I took out one. I took out one can because I wanted it a bit louder. But I took the can off. Greddy.
Greddy can.
Yeah. So the back one's a Greddy one as well. So they were both, really nice stuff. Yeah. But the rest of it is, I wouldn't change anything about it other than the wheels and the height.
Yeah.
It was already perfect. So thankfully, I'm not delving that much into it. The engine I haven't changed anything on because it's chaos. It's just vacuum lines everywhere. I don't know how finicky these are because again, there's no information on them. I can't ask people how they are because no one has them. But thankfully, I don't care about power. So for this car,
power you've got.
Exactly. For this car, I don't need to really know anything further than how to keep it alive.
Yeah, maintenance.
Maintenance is all I care about. I'm not trying to make it faster. Not even trying to make it lower. It might go on hydros.
It will go on hydros.
It will go on hydros.
You heard it here first. I'm sure that
they're getting delivered tomorrow. So
that's it.
It's a 6-way.
Really? Oh, there you go. Spoiler alert.
Well, I need to be able to move it up and down. So I do want it to sit lower, but I don't want air ride. So having it on hydros is just a little bit cooler.
It's just so cool. No, do you know what? And that actually ties in with one of my final questions about this car. Is whole hydros. In my opinion,
that's the main question people care about. Is it red or brown?
The main question that I would say it's brown. No, it's brownie. Do you know what?
He's saying no.
Well, it's maroon. Is that?
It shifts. Because when it was outside, it looked
it looked maroon out there, but it looks brown.
It looks brown in here. If you look at it like on the dark.
Do you know exactly what colour it is? Like the country?
No, I have no idea. This was resprayed in Japan, and you will find out about that soon.
Oh right, okay. But so okay, it's respray. So do you know what the original colour was?
Yeah, it's dark green. It's like a really dark, like emerald green.
So what's the story about why it was painted? Do you know why?
It's Japan. They just do whatever they want. This was used as a garage runabout for years. So the sticker on the back's real. So that was the Team Zeros Racing, I believe, is the racing team they had. And then the MR factory was their garage. And I've seen it on Google Maps. I can't contact anyone there. I'm trying
to get in touch with somebody.
There's one guy that tags it as a location on Instagram on post, and he just does not open his inbox. He'll reply to me in comments, but then it just pretends like he doesn't see my inboxes. I don't know.
Do you know what have you noticed about that? Obviously, you dealing with Japanese and the Japanese the way they are. What I admire about them is that they're so closed off. And I mean, Smoking the guy, alright, and he's like the hero king he is. But like I've tagged him with absolutely everything that I've done to that, even though openly it's not a real top secret car. They never built Subaru.
Yeah.
And again, he never replies.
Oh, well,
never does anything.
I mean, yeah, that's the same as our celebrities. Can you imagine the amount of people tagging him? Like,
well, if you ask random Joe blogs who Britney Spears was, they'd know. If you asked them who Smoking the Garter was,
well, the thing is, Smokey's, as much as he's a celebrity to us, he goes places in public in Japan like a normal person. The Juicebox guys with their awesome Japanese playlist that they did recently. He turned up to the docks. He turned up to the docks just in an R34 with loads of his mates. And he just turned up to Daikoku and he was there and he was trying to tell the guys from Juicebox that his mate was famous because he worked on the R34 and he designed the colour scheme and stuff like that. And they were like, no, you famous. You're famous, Smokey. And he's just sitting there with a book, like pointing out that his mate's famous. So he's
do you know what? I'm sure I've heard about that before,
yeah.
And this is what I admire. It's like when they come
it's
down.
so funny. He just doesn't see that. He doesn't see
that he's to people like me. He's a hero. Like that's the reason my shop. Like everything I do is like I love the way his backstory as it is, but like I love the way he just does everything he wanted to.
Well, yeah, he just did whatever he wanted,
and he didn't care.
But they're very humble people. Japan,
have you ever
very humble. No, not yet.
Would you like to?
I will.
Yeah, that's one place.
I've just got so many expensive things happening at
once.
once.
It's the whole. It's crazy. Yeah. So you've got the car now, and you've got it to exactly where you want it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Almost do that to everyone.
With the hard roads that's coming, and you just literally spoiler alert. It's absolutely brilliant. That you put that on here. That's fantastic. And to be honest, putting this on hard roads is going to be king, because I do admire the old school lowriders, and that's what brings me on to the next subject of this car. So hydros, obviously you engraving. So a lot of the lowriders with normally you see like the glitter paint frames, or real pristine crazy jobs. Oh yeah, ridiculous amounts of work going into it. I admire. I mean, there's a lowrider. It was at Rollhard actually, and it's got the engraving of the paint on the other side.
Yeah, that's Jack.
It's got
he did the paint on that. So he actually owns a company called Forge from Flake. He's awesome painter, but he specialises in like pinstriping, the layered lace work and metallics and stuff like that. So he painted that car himself.
That's just this is it. So I was sitting there and I was like, the work level, and that's what I mean, the detail that you don't get to see, especially first off. Now, anybody that follows you on here will know that your wheels are now engraved, and that was the details. From first glance, when you look, you've got a nice set of dish, but unless you get down and look,
you don't really see it from far away, or if it's driving. Or
exactly. So, from what I've known, this to me, it's not a first, obviously, but I didn't really know that this was a thing. So what made you decide, especially on rare wheels such as these,
Well, the thing is, the lips are not the original SSR lips. So these are just. I always had the plan to do engraved wheels at some point.
Right.
I've always wanted engraved parts and stuff because I love the lowrider culture. I'd never own a full lowrider. I'd never own a Kaido racer. I just like both. So these are flat backed lips without the the normal bubble shape.
Yeah, got it.
I had to get that profile so that I had area to work on.
Yeah.
You can't really do the curved bit without having insane skill and proper tools, which I don't have. So they've got the big flat flange, which is why they look kind of weird to some people, and they do look kind of weird. But
But to be fair, like,
This is what I had to do.
It's like the only time you ever see it is when it's thin, you know, where the bolts go in and a split rim, and that's
It's just this weird little extra space that would usually bubble out rather than go flat corner. So
it's nice. So when you engraved, I mean, literally the skill involved in that, and I mean, anyone who sees this at a show, you need to really have a look at them because.
Not too close, please.
Not even. I wouldn't even say that. I mean, literally. So
that good.
when you first, I mean, was it something you just got the stuff and went, I'm just going to do it, or was it something you were hesitant about ruining, or maybe because obviously with engraving, once you start, you can't
undo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a tattoo. Just decided I wanted to see if I could do it, and I found out doing it that I just about could.
So how long did it take? Exactly. Do you know? Did you manage
it wasn't every day because the tools are too loud to use at home. But it was about 6 months from.
And that's
all
the
first one. Yeah, that's all. And then the steering wheel was only a few days.
I was going to say because you've got the engraved steering wheel as well. So
that one actually was kind of stressful.
Oh really?
Unlike these, obviously you can just relip with these lips were built and bought in UK.
Oh yeah.
Dime a dozen. If you just give the spec and get more. The Nardi is a genuine original dark wood gold line Nardi, which is really nice. It was really, really nice, and I was like,
do I don't know.
I knew I wanted to, but I knew I needed to not fuck up.
Yeah, because it's replacing that is.
I mean, you can't really, and it's the one that it came with from Japan.
Exactly, so even more. So have you got any more plans to engrave any more of the metal?
No. So I've only engraved stuff that could be replaced. Obviously the trim for this and all that is non-existent, so I can't risk causing corrosion or messing up, or even taking it off. I'd have to do it on the car, and it's not.
Honestly, it's like just put that level of work in, and it's the finer detail. If I'm looking at a car in a show, that's something that I always look at, the finer details, like what's behind it. And again, it proves your individuality as a person and what you're into, and it reflects that, which I admire. With this, is there any sort of inspiration behind the designs, like the leaves or stuff like that? Or did you just like go as you
do? So part of it is a standard filigree pattern. There's a lot of different patterns when it comes to that kind of shaping. But yeah, it's basically partly a standard filigree with thistles added into it. So because my white side of my family is Scottish, and obviously thistles are quite common in filigree patterns. But what I had to do is I had to get the design, turn it into a vectorize on my computer the full shape and dimension of this flat section, and then I sent it off to my friend at Tiato, who cut it out of vinyl.
No way.
So
it's like a stencil, right?
Yeah, it's die cut. Yeah, but visual only, because obviously with a metal tool, you can go straight through vinyl. It's visual alone. You're still having to do it. So yeah, obviously because it's circular, it had to match up perfectly. So it had to be a vinyl. The steering wheel I did a fair bit by hand, just because I knew where it needed to be and all that stuff. It's not matching. But yeah, so I made I got 6 vinyl templates made because I knew I would fuck up, and it took 4 or 5 hours ish just to peel the lines out of the vinyl template.
I know, I used to work at a sign company, so I know how weedy it's like.
So imagine weeding every line for this all the way around without breaking any other bits.
It's painstaking, and if you
literally one, needle nose tweezers for 5 hours.
It's not all the top secret literally was done in house here. With my plotting machine up there, and it's the same. Like if you get to the last letter, especially on the smaller stuff, if you mess that up, you cut the whole lot again, or it's painstaking.
If I cut a section out of one and move it to another, that means I've got a vinyl that will only do
exactly
that amount, and it's like it was a
nuts, man. But like 6 months worth of work, and a lot of people. This is why I can fully see why you've won awards for the wheels, and this is what I mean. What you were saying before, wheels. It's exactly what you said about you can only get them in size, spec, colour, width, etc.
There's not much personalisation.
Exactly, but then you can't. I love the fact that you can't look at that and go, where can I buy them wheels? I like them. You can't. Exactly. That's what I like about it.
I like it more when people walk up and go, "Oh, who did them then?"
Yeah, well, I then go, "Where did you buy them?"
It's like, who did that? Who did you go to get that done? It was me.
It makes you feel good.
I was gonna get some engraving done myself, and I was like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it sucks. It is awful. It is
engraving. It's an art. It's an art, and you know what? When you look at them, I mean,
and this isn't even true engraving because it's not. The right tool is like an air-fed compressor thing. It's almost like a vibrating kind of knife that cuts in, and that's where you get that V shape because these are only grooves. The V shape stuff, but some of those air compressor proper engraving setups are like 1.5k. Something like that. Like, it's silly money.
Decent
it's crazy money. But it's artisan work, and it's why they charge so much. But the fact they charge so much means I couldn't afford to get my wheels done professionally. So
thing is, though, it will make you feel so much better.
Yeah, I do like knowing that I did them, even if they are way off what the professionals could do.
You say that though, and again, it's like, trust me, I'm a person that if I agree with something like that, I would say, yeah, they would look bad. But they. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just like you look at them and you go, and that should prove it when people come up to you at a show and they're like, "Who did them?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "That."
Oh yeah, people really enjoy them
because they're like, "Yeah, you did them." What? You know what I mean? It's like
people don't expect it.
Exactly, and they don't. You know, and it's the same with livery. They're like, "Oh, who did you get your livery done?" So I make myself.
Yeah.
So
it's quite rare to find people doing their own stuff.
Exactly, it's all done in here.
It's ironic though, because like for my engine, so I had to send the Golf off. Like I'll be the first person. I wanted to put a plate on the engine bay that says, if it ever gets opened, that says like his company did it, because I'll never take credit for that.
The thing is though, it's
like dumb stuff like this I can do. So it's like,
you know what? It's just like again, it expresses your individuality, and it's a car that you never see. You mean we actually passed you on the way here, on the way to go.
Oh, okay.
And the weirdest thing was, I said to Rob when we was on the way to get them on, I was like, he'll be coming off the M40 soon. You can't miss his car. Wasn't it, Rob? The minute that I said that, you literally drove the other way on the carriageway, and he was like, what's that? And I was like, that's Cam. I told you can't miss that thing.
That's the bounciest car in the UK.
It's just, I'll tell you what, on road, it's got a presence. It really has got a presence on road, and when you look at it and you just think, wow.
It is quite funny because obviously doing like 55 on the motorway, everyone comes past you.
Of course.
And nearly every single person slows down for a bit. They're all, you see the whole family.
Yeah, what is it?
Like
what is
doing
it?
that, and you can see the dad like really upset that he can't work out what it is. And his family's like asking like, what is it, Dad? What is it? You're like, I don't know.
Fails us to fly. You can't tell us.
Every time I like even go to the shops and everything, every time I come back, there's some old bloke walking around it with his hands behind his back, like looking at everything. And I get there and I'm like, "You alright, buddy?" He's like, "Hey, what is this?"
Yeah, man.
So it doesn't actually say what it is multiple times on the car.
Yeah,
it's kind of. I mean, it doesn't say the actual model.
The thing is, they look for an obvious Toyota logo.
No, they're looking for Jaguar. They're looking for Jaguar, Rover, or what did I have it the other day? Daimler.
Daimler. To be fair, the Daimler thing.
Yeah, I get them.
I'll get the Daimler.
Because the thing is, they have never seen one before. So like, it's understandable. I never laugh at them like, haha, you don't know what it is. It's like, yeah, you don't know what it is. I didn't either.
It's when you get people that claim in their 100% they do know what it is.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't. I mean, I have my stage here.
Yeah.
It was called the Volvo V70. Understandable. It's a box at the back, but it was nothing like one. And the best one I had was at the BP garage. And the guy was like, "I love these. Absolutely love them." I was like, "Well, cool. You know, sound respect. You know what it is." Yeah, I know what it is. I was like, "Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?" "Yeah, I love Mondeos." They called my Stager a Mondeo estate, but he was convinced that it was, and I was like, "It's not a Mondeo, it's not a Ford, mate." And he was like, "What do you mean?" And he got really uppity. I was like, "Mate, it's not a Ford."
It's strange. Like I've had some fairly close ones, like Cressida. So the UK version and
Of course,
the kind of lower spec one and the one that America got. We all got Cressidas. So some people at certain shows, if they grew up in like South Africa or anything like that, they'll say, "Oh, I remember these Cressidas." Like, well, actually, no. It looks exactly like one, but it's actually the Japanese is a Corona, and but visually they are correct. It is almost exactly identical to a Cressida. So very rarely will people pick it out, but it does happen from time to time.
This is it, man. So what I'm going to do is one last thing I do want to touch up on while I've got you here. Hot Wheels.
Oh God.
Now, obviously, this is the thing that everyone. If I did mention Hot Wheels and people would like, you had Cam and you didn't mention the Hot Wheels.
There's not much to say about them.
It's like
you find them and you buy them. And you take them.
The thing is you appear. There's a lot of people now, and I'm going to put this out there. I don't care what people think. There is a lot of people that you put on the story. They go and buy 4 Hot Wheels, and they're a collector now, and they're like, "Oh, look at me! I bought Hot Wheels." You appear as a genuine collector. Now, I'm a diecast fan. I collect 118 scale models.
Yeah. Oh, I've got all the scales. So
exactly, this is what I'm meant to see. So, you're one of the genuine ones. I know someone else out there that does collect and genuinely.
There's a fair few guys out there.
But there is a lot of people that are just doing it to bounce off. There's a theme going around. Can you get that?
It does seem that I'm never going to claim that it's something that I did or something that I influenced or anything like that. But when I started doing, obviously, my wall collection a few years ago now, no one else cared about Hot Wheels, or no one really gave a shit. And then, like, slowly, more and more people have suddenly started buying Hot Wheels or caring about them, and then more and more people have started putting them on their walls. But you can kind of tell how long people have been doing it because it's like 9 cars.
Yeah,
and like it's the same, it's the exact same layout as like I'm not the first to do it either.
No,
but it's just funny to see, like, in the last year or so, the amount of people who are now buying them, and now it's like a thing to do.
It's a thing to keep.
I mean, I'm enjoying seeing it, but it's funny when people message me and they say, "Where did you get like such and such?" If you're asking that question, you don't understand how Hot Wheels works.
Yeah,
it's random. Stop asking me where I got special.
It is random. I'll walk into Sainsbury's and it will be absolutely rubbish. I'll walk into Asda and you'll find 22B.
There's no rhyme or reason. They come in a big ass box, big old box that just says Mattel, and it's a random set of cars from the last collection or like the year. It's not like Waitrose is a more expensive shop, so it has the better cars.
Yeah,
you can find the same stuff in Tesco's as you can in Waitrose. If you want the special stuff, you need to go on. You need to find.
It is. It's just that literally I've noticed. I mean, like I said, obviously when both of us aren't claiming you've invented it because it's not the case. But like, you know, and there's you must know about the guy he's got like a £1.7 million Hot Wheels collection.
Oh yeah,
like in America. Like,
some single cars can go for tens of thousands.
They're nuts. I mean, my son owns about 300 Hot Wheels, but they're all out the boxes, and he parks them in a garage that lights up, and he plays with them. But like, the reason I'm touching is because
we all did it as kids. I wish I didn't.
Of course,
I wish I did.
Some
remembering what I was playing with and knocking around and smashing into each other.
Did you have Matchboxes?
Nah, Matchbox doesn't. It's never had the same quality, but it's just I know how much money I've destroyed.
Yeah, well, that's
as a kid.
But if we all knew that, same with Pokemon cards. How many times? I mean, obviously I'm a bit older than you, but Pokemon cards at the time, a Charizard card, you'd go and swap that for 50p and your lunchbox. Do you know what I mean? You know, I have my lunch. Now a Charizard.
Diora 2s and like the genuine like the root Diora 2 that I had, and I ripped that open. I remember firing it into a wall repeatedly, and I look online now and they're like £100 and something. It's like, man,
for a Hot Wheels car that big.
Yeah.
No, it all boils down to there's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon for clout and anybody.
That's happening in general though, like
with everything. And there's one thing I can't stand it. You know what I mean? What happens is like, since I'm genuine collectors, you can tell
it dies off though. It dies off,
but it won't die off for you because you
like people buying Japanese cars for clout and stuff like that. It'll die off because they'll realise that they aren't about it. Like, you can't fake passion for that long. You can't. You can put maybe, I don't know, 30 quid into buying Hot Wheels or something like that. When it starts getting to the level of, all right, are you ready to spend 300? Are you ready to spend 3,000? They're not going to. So they'll stagnate and they'll die off, and they'll realise, I may as well just sell these. I'm never going to buy more, and then I get them. And then I get even more.
Exactly.
it carries on.
It's the fact, some people would, I'm sure there's out there. I spent £324 on a 22B 118 from a Wawa in the box. Auto in the box, 118 scale.
Those are silly money.
I've never opened it. It's still got the red ribbon around the bonnet to keep it shut. And I also did the same on a Richard Burns he's signed the box.
That's cool.
And I've got both of them in my cabinet. Are you prepared to spend that amount of money on a die-cast model?
I'm not.
Exactly, I wasn't. I was like, geez,
£300 on loads?
But I just wanted it so bad, and you know what it was? That model's been out for years, and growing up I was like, I can't afford that. So when you get to a point where you work hard and you save and you go, I'm going to get that.
Everyone has that child thing that's really expensive to a kid, but not that bad to an adult that you kind of have to buy.
It's like, I've got friends that go out and spend £500 on booze on the weekend.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. At least I've got something to show for it.
Yeah.
But genuinely, so the Hot Wheels, it's been an absolute pleasure. You've got your Mark II here. Absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me. It means so much to me that you've come down from wherever you come from. London. Exactly, so you come up, down. There you go. Okay, that's it then people. We've just found out Cam's backstory, exactly what got him into cars in the first place. We've touched upon his Hot Wheels collection, everything JDM, and exactly what turns him on about everything Japanese life. Absolutely fantastic to meet him, fantastic to find out his history. We're going to go over to the send zone, we're going to send him off. Let's go. Right then, you need to tell me exactly who you want to see on RRM Auto Works in the Bay Presents. Tell me who you want to see, comments, like, subscribe, let me know. We'll get anyone you want down, we'll get their story. Very interested on finding out who's up to it. So Cam, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You, buddy.
You are an
It's been a
absolute
pleasure.
legend. Awesome car, and this just goes to show dreams can be made easy if you work hard and you push for it. And I'll see you soon.
See you later,
Thank you
buddy.
very much.